What's up, everybody, and welcome to Weekend Dips. As always, my name is Randy, and if you aren't familiar with what Weekend Dips is, it is the show that I will be doing on Mondays, kind of covering what I viewed this past weekend in the form of cinema and television, maybe some video games too, if I really fall in love with a video game. I know the new Spider-Man game's coming out, and I cannot wait for that. EAFC is what they're calling it now. That comes out this next Friday, so I'm excited for that. But we are not talking about any video games today. We are going to be talking about a movie franchise that I have finally watched all the way through, and I'm not talking about Pixar, even though currently I'm doing a Pixar rewatch. We'll also be talking about a show, a new season for one of my favorite shows that I just finished, and we're going to start off today's show by talking about The Nun 2, or it might just be Nun 2. Yeah, no, it is The Nun. It's The Nun 2. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that as well. But first off, if you guys are listening to this, make sure to leave us a rating on Spotify. We really do appreciate it. You can catch the audio version on Reality Now. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with all your friends. It just helps the channel grow. And I can't wait to get some guests on here. So the guests are coming. So it's not just going to be me for the foreseeable future. We got guests definitely coming on the show, but let's get straight into it. So Weekend Dips, again, is just me kind of covering, we're dipping the toes into, sorry to put that image in your head, into what I viewed this past weekend. And I went on Saturday night, I went to see The Nun 2 with my good friend Rodney. He's going to be coming on the show fairly soon. I can't wait to have him. And I didn't know going into this how I was going to feel about seeing The Nun 2. It wasn't a movie that I was dying to see. First off, I am not the biggest horror movie fan. I feel like the acting at times can be subpar. I feel like the story takes a backseat to just scaring people, which drives me nuts. Like when I go see a movie, I want to be enriched in the story. I want the story to be captivating. And I feel like a lot of times in horror movies, it's like we don't really care about that. We would much rather just scare you. And it just doesn't. It's not my cup of tea. But I'm a huge movie guy. I love to go out of my comfort zone. And obviously I'm not going to go all year without seeing the latest and the biggest horror movies that studios have to offer. And I did see the first Nun movie in theaters. I don't remember anything about it. I mean, when the movie started, I had my friend Rodney basically say, "Oh man, it's the girl from the first movie." If he didn't say that, I would have went the entire movie just thinking these are all new characters. Gotta be honest. They did have some flashbacks in there, but I just didn't remember anything about the first movie. Like literally when I go back in my database, in my mind, it's just like completely gone. I don't know what year it came out. I just remember that I went and saw it in the theaters. So I was kind of going into The Nun 2 like a new fan. I haven't watched the Conjuring movies. I think I've seen the latest one. I have seen that. I will say that I've seen the latest Conjuring film. But I haven't really seen the entirety of the franchise. I haven't seen the Annabelle film. So like in terms of the lore of this universe, of the Conjuring universe, I'm not a part of that. So I was going into The Nun 2 as an unbiased, kind of like a new fan, someone who's never been introduced to this world just because I don't remember anything from it. So it wasn't my choice of film. Rodney really wanted to see it. And I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything. So sure, we can go see it. After I kept dipping on him like day after day, that stuff kept coming up for me, whether I was sick or I had something else planned. So finally we went to see went to see The Nun 2 in theaters. I had my small popcorn. I had my Crunch candy, my absolute go-to. I had a large lemonade and I was ready to go. And I'm happy I went and saw this movie. You know, it's getting to scary time. It's getting to Halloween, October. It's September 18th as of this recording. We're getting to the holiday season where it starts with Halloween, then goes Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. I can't wait. I'm like a kid on Christmas Eve. I just am so excited to start decorating. It's still a little too early. We might be decorating for Halloween in the next week or so, but This was a good time to see this film. And man, it was freaky. I know I saw some of my friends post about it, and they said that horror movies don't get them. This one had a good story, but like it's just never scary to them. It was terrifying to me. They used there were some jump scares. Obviously, it's a horror film, you're gonna have some jump scares, but they used more of like the camera would be focused on a character, and then in the background you would see the nun like peek through the darkness, like you saw kind of her silhouette, or the camera would be zooming into like a dark spot in the room and you would see her silhouette. That is terrifying to me. Anytime that happens, I'm absolutely terrified. um but what I do remember from the first one is I felt like the story was there, but it did rely more on the scary aspects, kind of scaring the audience. This one had a good story, especially in my opinion for a horror film. This had a really good story. They made sure that you knew the history of what was going on. When they were bringing the religious aspects into it, they made sure they covered all the bases where you knew exactly the importance of each artifact and why this demon was carrying out these acts and why it was, possessing who it possessed. And I'm going to try not to spoil much for you guys, but I like this film. I really did. The setting played into the story perfectly. It was set in 1950s France, at a kid's boarding school. I liked the characters. So some of the characters that return in this one, I got IMDb pulled up just because I'm so bad with names. You had Taissa Farmiga, who plays Irene. I probably butchered her name. You had Jonas Bluquet, who plays Maurice. So you had some returning characters, and you had Bonnie Aarons also return as the nun. But you had Storm Reed was in this one as well, and it was great seeing her in it. So I enjoyed it. I thoroughly had a fun time. When we left the theater, it was 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm making sure nothing's out there. I was scared. I was kind of a bit terrified after this one. There is a post-credit scene that didn't mean much to me. Like I knew what they were setting up with it. Personally, I just didn't care. Like I said, I'm not enriched in the Conjuring universe, but I will say the post-credit scene has a big part to do with that. But there's only one, so make sure it's a mid-credit scene. So make sure you stay for that, and it's only like maybe 10 seconds, so it's super short. You're going to want to stay for that. Let me pull up my review here just to kind of give you guys everything. The best scene was there was this terrifying, not terrible. There was this terrifying scene about a demon that was upstairs, and the girls were like, I think something's upstairs. And that whole scene will be living in my nightmares. It was so good. That was by far the best scene. I'm getting all this from Letterboxd, by the way. If you want to check out all my Letterboxd reviews, make sure to follow us there. At What the Take, all one word. There's also a link in the description below. Best performance was by Jonas Bluquet as Maurice. Maurice was, minor spoiler here, he had a lot to do with the nun kind of coming back to life or coming back to the real world. And oh my gosh, every scene he was in, he was terrifying. I wanted nothing to do with Maurice, so Jonas killed that role. I gave it a 3 out of 5, a 6 out of 10. So if you look at it like that, I thought it's a decent film. When I give something 3, it's kind of my baseline. That was good. That was decent. It didn't knock my socks off. It wasn't terrifying where I never want to watch it again. Like I'd watch it again. I don't think I'd go out of my way to watch it again. I don't think I'm going to buy it on DVD, but I mean, if it was on, like if I'm watching, I don't know, if I'm scrolling on Max, which I assume it's going to go to Max because that's where all the other ones are. If I'm scrolling on Max and it happens to be there and I want to watch a horror movie for Halloween, like I'll watch it again. I gave it a rewatchability percentage of 82. So it's kind of around there. Like, and that's not going based off how much I would rewatch it. That's going based off how much I think the public will want to go back and rewatch it. And it's just, I think a lot of people are going to check it out if they want to watch a horror movie, much like I said, but it's not one that you're seeking to watch again, but like if it's on, sure. So I gave it an 82. And then the age rating I gave 16 and up. If I'm looking at like who should be watching this, it should be kind of teenagers 16 and up. So I royally enjoyed it. I do think there's going to be a Nun 3. I will go see it in theaters. Let's just hope this time I remember what happened in the Nun 2 before I before I go and see it. So I'm not going in there completely blind. We can only hope. So next up I want to move to another horror franchise that I've been tuning into. And I did this before I started my Pixar rewatch. By the way, if you want to see how I'm enjoying that, I posted part 1 of my Pixar rewatch where I talk about the films that I saw. I watched The Good Dinosaur, Brave, Luca, and The Incredibles. Since that episode came out, I've now watched The Incredibles 2 and Lightyear. I saw Lightyear for the first time. So I got to watch 2 more movies. The next 2 are Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2. And then I'll be doing part 2 of that series of my full Pixar rewatch. Basically going in order of the Pixar Theory timeline. But before I did all that, I was watching something completely different. I was watching Saw, the entire Saw franchise. So this is a film. When I was younger, I think I would have had to been 7 or 8. My dad thought it was a good idea to introduce me to the world of Saw, and it was actually a terrible idea because I was terrified. I was staying the night in my mom's room. I was absolutely horrified. And I think we watched the first Saw movie. I think that's the one we watched. Don't quote me on that. But over the years, I've come to really enjoy watching Saw, but I had only seen the first 3. So I went back, I rewatched the first 3. I got into the story more. I started rewatching the entire franchise because obviously Saw 10 is coming out maybe next weekend. Don't quote me on that. I'm gonna look that up while I'm still talking here. But I finally finished it over the weekend. I watched Saw 6. No, I watched Saw 5, Saw 6, Saw 3D or the final chapter. And now, okay, I'm lying. I haven't completely finished it. I do still have to watch Jigsaw. I have already seen Spiral State here. So, but I mostly September 29th. I have a song coming out on September 29th as well. Check that out. No, so it comes out in a couple weeks. But I needed to watch all of Saw before checking out the newest installment, which is going to be Saw 10. Here's my opinions on Saw as a whole, and I got to pull up my Letterboxd to give you my ratings here. Hopefully they pop right up. They're not going to. I enjoyed Saw and I liked the story. Like once I got into the story, there's a lot of questions that I have with Saw, stuff that just didn't make sense. So I gave Saw 5 3 stars. I gave Saw 6 3.5. I gave Saw 3D or the final chapter. I gave it a 1.5. That film, I don't know if I was sawed out at that point. I think in Saw 6, I started losing a little bit of interest. And I was like, okay, all right. Like I didn't like, that was the one where the accountant had to, no, not was it the accountant? I think the accountant had to go save his fiance, or was that the final chapter? See, I'm mixing them up now. Now I gotta now I gotta remember. Hold on. Saw the final chapter. Yeah, I think I might be mixing them up. Because Saw 6 was the one where the accountant had to make it to the end. Yes. Saw 6 was when the accountant had to make it to the end to save his family. And then Saw 7 was the one where we saw the kind of fake activists have to go through a trial himself and prove his worth. And both of the films just didn't entice me. Like I felt like it went away from what Saw really was. It's so weird to say. Saw 3D was just bad. I was so bored during Saw 3D. I didn't like how I don't know, some of the scenes look so bad because you could tell at the time 3D was just such a new thing and they were testing it out. And even though the version that I watched wasn't 3D, it just there were certain moments. One that stands out is his wife, basically the creator of Saw. Like I said, I'm so bad with names. Jigsaw. I'll just call him Jigsaw. Yeah, played by Tobin Bell. I didn't like how they offed his wife in the last movie. Spoiler, I'm sorry, but it just I don't know, it was lackluster to me. I don't know if it was I wanted her to survive throughout the entire experience and I just felt like they built the entire movie up for her to survive. And it just felt like a quick death. I don't know why, but the scene that sticks out to me, I think that's where I was going with this, is the scene where he was dreaming, the detective was dreaming about killing Jigsaw's wife. That scene, and it all happens like he activates the trap and it pierces through her and splits her into a million pieces. That scene was not good. It looked awful. I've seen like some cheap animation that looked better than that. So I didn't really enjoy that scene. And I don't know, the last two movies I just lost. I don't know if it was I was binging them so much that I was kind of just worn out. That could have been the case, but man, by the end I was like, thank God it's over. Thank God. I felt like I was in a saw trap, kind of pushing through those last couple of films. I am excited to see Saw 10. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. We're going to have, today's cinema, 2023 graphics and special effects and we've all seen that clip, I'm sure, of the guy who's in the eyeball trap where he has to like break his fingers before his eyeballs get sucked out of his head. I do think this is going to be the most gruesome Saw ever. And even though I love watching it, I am still that person. Anytime like they're in a trap, I'm like looking away. I'm like, I can't do this. So I'm interested to see that. Overall, the Saw franchise as a whole, I don't know. I feel like if I look at all my ratings and I look at the average of the ratings, I feel like out of 5, I'd give the entire Saw franchise like a 2.5, like a 3. I feel like talk about a horror film that the story is just all over the place, and that is Saw. I mean, we don't go and watch Saw for the story. We go to watch Saw for the traps and to see these people struggle to make it out of the traps. As dark as that is, that's why we go to watch Saw. So I don't know. It was a fun rewatch. I still got to watch Jigsaw. I'm a little nervous about it after Saw the final chapter. I had to take a break. Okay, I had to take a break after Saw 3D. I was like, whoo, I still got 2 weeks before the new one comes out. So I just have 2 weeks to watch Jigsaw. So the final thing I want to talk about today is The Witcher season 3. And I know you guys saw a video that I posted on this account that was basically titled "What's Wrong with The Witcher season 3." And I was 3 episodes in at the time, and my biggest problem with it is they were relying so heavily on you reading the books to understand what was going on. And you saw that if you don't have the app TV Time, check it out. You can keep track of all your TV shows. You saw it in the comments of each episode where people are like, I don't understand what's going on. Like, who is this character? And then you had other people who would chime in and say, well, if you read the book, you would understand what's going on. And I don't think a TV show should, I mean, they should create their show for the general audience, or their show or their movie for the general audience. Right? I feel like everybody should be able to understand it, and you should have some Easter eggs in there for people who read the books, much like I gave Harry Potter as an example. There were some moments in there that only if you read the books would you understand. And I think that's how all cinema and television should work. You should not assume that people are reading the books, because a lot of people don't read books. Watching the rest of the series, this season was a letdown. And it's very unfortunate that it was a letdown, because I love this show. So we all remember season 1 was terrible. I know some people liked it, but you're wrong. Season 1 was horrendous. The director came out and apologized and said, we messed up. We'll fix it for season 2. Season 2 came around. It was a much more linear story. It was much more they explained a lot more of the backstory when it came to certain scenes. Season 2 was much, much, much better. And it kind of, everyone who stuck it out through season 1 kind of gained their love for the franchise again through season 2. And season 3 was nowhere near as bad as season 1, but it wasn't as good as season 2. And it was just kind of middle of the road. That's how I felt at the end of it. And it's unfortunate because we're losing Henry Cavill, right? Especially the last episode, we saw one more fight scene with Henry Cavill as Geralt of Rivia. And that was it. And then he walks off to the sunset. Like there wasn't a lot. I wanted more in the last episode. I know a lot of people wanted them to explain why Geralt's going to have an entire different face next season. I don't think they're going to explain that. I don't know why you would expect them to have a reason. It's just, we've seen this before with actors who pass away, or I don't think they're going to explain it. I don't think they're going to be like, oh, I use magic to change my face to disguise myself. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's just going to be Liam Hemsworth comes in and he's Geralt. Like, and you're just going to have to accept that. I know a lot of people aren't going to keep watching the show. I implore you to give him a chance, give Liam Hemsworth a chance. I think he'll do good. I don't think he's going to be Henry Cavill, but I do still think the show can be good. But this season had 2 good episodes. And it was the episode before the mid-season break, and it was the episode after the mid-season break. And specifically the episode after the mid-season break where we're having that giant battle at Aretuza. That episode is the best of the series. I honestly don't remember another episode that's anywhere near that good. Hands down, best of the series is that battle scene at Aretuza. That was giving me, I know it's unfair to compare it to Game of Thrones, and people are going to be upset that I even compare. It's 2 different franchises. I get that. But Game of Thrones is my favorite show of all time. I see The Witcher, when I'm watching that, I see The Witcher as like, okay, Game of Thrones isn't on. I can get right back into a medieval world with some violence and some drama and love with The Witcher. So it's kind of like my Game of Thrones B option. That was the closest to Game of Thrones that we've ever gotten with this. The battle scene was incredible. The emotion was incredible. You saw for the first time ever Geralt realizing he's lost. Like he's probably going to die. He's just been defeated. And you see that look of terror on so many people's faces, like Yennefer, when she's going back to help her friend because she can feel something's up. Like you just see that, I'm going to say her name wrong, Tasai, or yeah, I know it's wrong. I'm not even going to try. But when Yennefer is going to help her friend, like you see the fear in her face. And the emotion in this one was insane. We had some shocking deaths. People died that you weren't expecting to die. And you're like, what the, I thought they were going to make it. What? They were such a big part of the series. And then it even made you question whether Geralt was going to die. Were they going to kill him off and then bring a whole new Geralt in from another universe, and that was going to be Liam Hemsworth? Like, it made you ask questions, and it left you on the edge of your seat. And unfortunately, you had that episode, which was the best of the series, and then you had the last 3 episodes, which it was like, meh, meh, meh. Like the episode where Ciri is just in a desert the entire episode. I understand some people might respect that. I understand we got more of her character and we saw more inside what was going in her, what was going on inside her brain. That episode was a drag. And it was, if you want to have that type of episode, you have it early on in the season, or try to do something earlier on, or I don't know what to do. To have that towards the end of the season, it felt like a filler episode. It felt like a waste of time. It was just not, the placement fucked it up bad. The placement was not good whatsoever. And I feel like that works if that's happening. And then you have you cut away from Siri, and you go and you check out other people and what's going on with them. To have it on Siri pretty much the entire time, almost the entire time. There was a little bit more happening with Yaxir and Geralt. That it was just a mistake. It was just a mistake on production's part. I get what they were going for, but I think that was just, I mean, you had so much momentum going for you, and then that episode comes and it just kills, just destroys the momentum. So overall, I gave this season, I believe, a 3 out of 5. And like I said earlier, that's my way of just kind of saying it was good. It was all right. Um, it was certainly wasn't my favorite. If I'm telling someone to get into The Witcher, I'm just going to tell them start with season 2. No, you got to start with season 1 with this. But I think I'm going to recommend starting with the books, because I just got the first Witcher book today. I had so many people telling me I got to check out the books. You got to check out the books. They're so good, and they give you a different perspective. And I've only read like 30 pages, and they've already given me a different perspective and more of an understanding of an event that happened back in season 1, where when I first saw that event, I was like, what does this have to do with the story? What the fuck is this? Now that I'm reading the book, I'm going to go back and rewatch that whole episode that had to do with that scenario, because I have more of an understanding now after reading just 30 pages of the first book. And I believe there's 8 books. Don't quote me on that. So, but yeah, it's a different, it's kind of a different feeling now that I have watching movies, because I've gone from the past month or so. I've watched The Nun 2. I've been watching The Witcher, which is super dark. I've watched the entire Saw franchise, to now I'm switching over and watching all the Pixar, like the lovable, cute Pixar animated films. So it's a different experience for sure. And doing it back to back is definitely entertaining. It's a whole new mindset that you have to be in to watch those films. So that's all I have for this episode of Weekend Dips. Again, you can catch Weekend Dips on Mondays. I know I've been gone the past couple weeks. I was dealing with some internet issues. I had to get that resolved. But I should be back every Monday for a new episode of Weekend Dips, where we talk about what I viewed and what I viewed from the weekend and my opinions on that. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. You can listen to a full audio version through Reality Now on Spotify. Make sure to leave us a rating there. We greatly appreciate it. You can follow us on X, Instagram, TikTok at @what_the_take. And I will see you guys next time for another episode and some more of my opinions. Thanks for watching, guys.